Thank you, Chairman. We have 11 members present. No apologies. From the union reps, we have apologies from David Stainthorpe from Unison. Okay. No apologies from George.
Thank you very much. Any declarations of interest? No. Next item is Local Government Pension Scheme Scotland Governance Arrangements from 1st April 2015. Report by Head of Finance. Are you doing this one, Andrew?
Thank you, Chair. The report that's in front of you today is more of an informative report than a report requiring any decisions today, and is to inform members of the new governance arrangements which will be coming into effect, planned on the 1st of April 2015. The report details the creation of 3 levels of governance required. There will be a scheme advisory board which will oversee the LGPS in Scotland and will provide Scottish ministers with information as and when required. There will be a pensions board created for each administering authority, or scheme manager as they will be known, which, as things stand just now, will have equal membership of employee representatives and employer representatives within the fund. And there will be the normal pensions committee, which will undertake the day-to-day management of the scheme. The remit of the pensions board is to act as a scrutiny board, basically, just to ensure that the decisions taken by the pensions committee are within the legal requirements, meet the governance regulations, etc. And like I say, the paper there just sets out the details as they are at present. Things have not yet been finalised. The consultation finished in middle of November. There's a couple of appendices attached, one from COSLA representing the employer side, and there's also one from the investment group, which is a group of officers which I sometimes go along to, who actually, most of them know what they're talking about. There are 1 or 2 issues regarding the draft regulation, and so the main concern at present is the representation, the equal representation for the minimum of 4 member and employee representatives on the pension board. The concern that I have for the area here is, where do we get the representatives? Obviously, it will be for the governance people to decide overall, eventually, what we do going forward. We've invited current admitted bodies to come along to the meetings. They don't come along very often. The requirement for 4 union or member representatives, where the legislation states trade unions. As far as I'm aware, there's only 3 trade unions within the council, so there could be problems there. How we're going to get representatives of employers to sit on a body which is just scrutinising somebody else, I don't know whether there'll be the interest to do that. Like I say, there's no requirement today to take any decisions. This is just for information, and hopefully we'll be in a position for the next meeting to update members fully, in which case there will be a paper go through the governance section, through the full council to update things.
much. I think somebody's went to a seminar and it's a bit of a dog's breakfast, quite frankly. I mean, what essentially it is a governance or say a scrutiny committee for the pension committee. Basically, that's what they're looking at. I think rather than making a decision today, because there's still one or two things to be ironed out, quite frankly, and again, it's for political groups that we've got 11 people on this committee at the moment. Will the political groups be able to persuade more of their colleagues to come? Because what they're talking about is having the joint meeting. So the meeting we're at today, you have all the other people here as well, and I assume it would then happen. The board, at the end of our meeting, would go off, and if they disagreed with anything that came up during the meeting, that would be their right to take it further. Because my understanding is that that's how it works. You're not going to have us meeting one day and the board meeting the next day. We all meet together, and then if the board then wishes to disagree with anything that we have done. So essentially, I think you need to take it back to your groups and decide whether we just want to keep the 11 people we've got and 7 stay as members of the pension fund, 4 become members of the pension board, or can we find another 4 members who want to come on board and be board members, and then we've got to try and find employer representatives as well, but that's not for us to worry about. So really, I think maybe you want to take it back to your groups and see if you've got anybody else that's willing to serve on a pensions board, or whether you want to look at saying, right, we've got 11 members here at the moment, 7 of us would stay as the pension committee, and 4 would become the pension board. Did that proportionally, 2 Labour would go on to the pension board, 1 Conservative, 1 SNP. That would be the way it would probably divvy up. We've got to do it proportionally. And
The employer representation does not necessarily have to come from the council. I mean, there is opportunity for representation from the admitted bodies within the scheme. So, presently we've got Scottish Police, Scottish Fire Service. We do have the representative from DGHP who's been to a couple of meetings. So I'd assume that they would have the opportunity to sit on the board. Similar, I mean, basically it's a case of the people who have the observer status at present would become the sort of nucleus of the board, but they would have the ability, etc., to refer decisions back to the committee if they felt that there was something untoward about the decisions that were being made. Again, member representation, it does not necessarily have to be at admitted member level. Obviously, the admitted body representatives are employees within the those employers, and there's no reason why employees within the council who have the relevant governance, scrutiny, roles, etc., would not be able to undertake the positions as of the pension board for the employer side.
I'm a bit confused. You've got the board, then you've got this committee, and there's a bit in between that as well. If the board don't like the decision, who advises the board? Because you're our advisors, we've got professional advisors. So who advises the board that would tell them something different? So we have to employ it different. And if they didn't agree with anything, this is a subcommittee of full council, where's the line of disagreement? Where does it end up at? The Scottish Government, or does it end up within ourselves? Because we're a standalone pension fund. So I'm a bit confused on what this is meant to achieve. It just seems to be putting a whole lot of bureaucracy in there and paperwork that seems unnecessary. We've never had a complaint about this scheme in all the years I've been on it.
I mean, I agree entirely with that. I think it's one of these things that's come from a national level. There's been a big push from some of the unions to gain representation on pensions committee, and this is seen as a way forward for them to get some kind of say. To be honest, I can't see any reason why there should be disputes. As the chair said, the meetings would be held jointly. They would be chaired by the chair of the pensions committee. The pensions board would sit in and observe, and unless there was something which did not meet the governance arrangements of the fund when the decisions were made, or whether the required level of information was taken, or whatever. It's not just a case of complaining about a decision for the sake of because I don't like it. There has to be some reasons, some governance reasons, some legal reasons, etc., to do so.
I can't remember ever taking a decision that I've never liked.
I agree with Ronnie. I'm just rather at a loss as to what this is all for. The one thing I'm a bit puzzled about in the papers, it talks about dispute resolution. Now, on one hand, it says in 3.9 that the Pensions Committee continue to be responsible for decision making and management of the pension fund. And then it talks about dispute resolution where there's a dispute amongst the board members. Now, what decisions are they taking that would need to come back to the Pension Committee for a decision? That seems to be a bit of a conflict there. If the Pension Committee ultimately makes decisions, what decisions is this board making?
The board aren't making decisions. The board are scrutinising the decisions of the Pensions Committee. And if they feel that there's something there that doesn't meet the requirements of the pensions legislation, then they can refer the decision back to the Pensions Committee for review.
I've got to agree with what everybody said. It does seem a wee bit daft that we have a pension committee and then it's been described as a scrutiny committee. Do we, sit in the pension committee and then go out and change hats and come back in and say, I didn't like the decision we made half an hour ago. Eh?
No, we wouldn't work like that, because say it was the same 11 folk that are here. 4 of you would become the board, right? But you can't participate in what the rest is do. Say we've got the fund advisors here, etc. They're here to give us advice, etc. We then make a decision. If you, as board members, don't like it, you can then refer that. I mean, if you read what it says here, you can refer that decision back to us. And this is the daft thing. If there's no agreement after matters have been referred back to the Pensions Committee, then the difference in view between the Pension Board and the Pension Committee will be published in the form of a joint secretarial report on the fund website and included in the annual fund report. So even if we disagree, all that happens is we record the disagreement, so as folk ken the board doesn't agree with the pension fund, right? And it also says the Scottish Local Government Pension Scheme Advisory Board, we also consider and take a view on the matter. There is no higher, there is no higher order that can come in and say, we're going to have to knock your heads together because you're not agreeing. Because all it says is the LGPS Advisory Board up in Edinburgh may also consider and take a view and provide advice, but it can't tell you what to do. It can provide advice. Well, I mean, the whole thing's a bit of a paper exercise to solve some civil servant's conscience, I think. Jim?
Where does that put the scrutiny committee? Because we have a committee set up specifically to scrutinise decisions made by either committees or subcommittees of the council. So maybe the simplest thing is to appoint 4 members of the scrutiny committee to this board, and in that way you do 2 things at the same time. You ensure that we don't disenfranchise them and we don't set up 2 different scrutiny panels in the council. But it's only a suggestion. I'm not really that concerned about how we deal with it.
That's my suggestion. Send it back to the political groups to take a look at how we actually set the thing up. Ian?
I didn't disagree with everything you're saying. I agree with most of it. The fact is that when I read this, I did think the same bureaucratic. Why is it here? Again, clearly, it's to try and put some kind of overarching scrutiny process over it. As you've outlined, you've got the board, you've got the scheme managers, which we will then become it as a committee, or the committee will become that scheme manager. But if it's coming in 1st April, like it says it is, then we've got to move forward. Again, I don't think there's any option with this. We've got to move forward and put something in place. And at first, between 318 and 320, what options do we take? So are you saying we just forget about those options at the moment? We go back to our groups and we'll feed back? I mean, if that's the case, then fair enough.
I think, as the Chair suggests, I think it's helpful to kind of start the discussion on this issue at this stage and in the political groups on that as well. But I don't think we're in a position here or in the groups yet to take a firm view on this. We need to bring more information to you to allow you to take that decision. And that'll come in the February report. I think we need to get a lot more information on the makeup of the board, the role of the board. do that at the February meeting. Still, I think at the moment there's actually no provision that allows the board to be set up before the 1st of April, strangely. So I think we've still got time. We leave it till the February meeting. I don't think we've got enough information available to us today to start to form a firm view. And I think these are concerns that are being echoed across Scotland at the minute. There's a bit of confusion as to what the role will be, how the board should be made up. So we'll come back to you in more detail.
Just very briefly on the back of the maps that Paul's made, and if there isn't anything in place we can actually set up the board, then we should look at some kind of shadow board, and I think, just to make sure that we're in place. And train, because training's mentioned again and again and again and again, and it's essential, I think, for all members of the scheme managers and the board themselves. So, I mean, keen to see that going forward.
I'm just wondering whether it'd be worth, I mean, instead of officers going around all the political groups, maybe a seminar might be a good thing for the entire full council in the first instance to allow the groups. Just one other thing before you come back in, Paul. I'm just wondering what the difference between the board would be and this committee. I mean, are they going to have a higher level of expertise on the governance issues, or are they going to be relatively in the same position as we are in terms of training and expertise?
I think that a kind of seminar approach to share information would be a good approach, but once we have that information available in detail to inform members in the right way. I think in terms of the role of the board, if somebody mentioned training, the guidance in terms of the training or the joint training with the board is still to come out. So I think when that's available, we'll get a bit more detail in terms of the role, and I think at that stage we can have a look at the approach to taking things forward.
Ronnie?
Ask the question, who advises the board? I mean, we've got external people. I said professional, you're professional, but we've got external advice, internal advice. Who would then advise the board? Would have to get their own external advisor, or we just use the same people? Well, if we're getting advised to make a decision, then the advisors say, well, no,
It's all in the act, or it's not in the act, put it that way. It's what's no there that is causing the confusion. Certainly the seminar I was at a few months back, and there's representatives there from the Scottish Government getting told no uncertain terms, this is a dog's breakfast, away and do something with it. And that's what professional advisors are telling them as well. How are you going to work it? Tell us how you want it to work. You know, it's not a good piece of legislation. Ian, sorry, Graham.
Yeah, Chair. You mentioned in your preamble about a consultation process. Is this part of the consultation process? Are we sending some information back to them as part of the consultation process?
No, the consultation finished in March. March, middle of November. So and the response from the COSLA conveners group and the response from the officers group is attached to the papers. The whole timescale of the thing was condensed. The papers didn't come out until October. So, I mean, the actual time to get things to look at. If I can sort of give an indication of how rushed this is, these things were supposed to be in place in England and Wales 1st of April this year, and they're still not.
So I'd be happy to continue this and take up Ian's suggestion about having a seminar. That one for the whole council, and then we're due to meet again February. And probably then be a matter for the full council determining who gets appointed and how we handle it, and then it'll go to the committee that amends the standing orders. I think that's the best way to handle it. Members happy? Stephen?
Yeah, happy with that. It was just a wee point just about the chairmanship of the pension board. It suggests that chair of the pensions committee shall act as chair of both meetings, but earlier in that appendix it talks about the chair will rotate on an annual basis between the local government employer and the relevant trade union representatives. So I don't know how that quite works.
Oh, that's chair of the pension board. So 1 year it would be rather like a joint committee between the management and trade unions. One year the management chair it, the next year the trade unions chair it. So that's talking about the board chairmanship.
Sorry, Chair. pensions, but the conjoined meetings, if you like, the chair of the pensions committee will be the chair of both meetings.
What it means is, say for instance today when we've got advisors down, right? You'll have a pensions committee, you'll have a pensions board, everybody will be here, hear what goes on at this meeting. If the pension board then meets, it has its own chairman. But for the purposes, the main meeting is the pension fund meeting, where everybody's present. If the board then wants to go off and have a meeting, they've got their own chairman who will be a union rep one year and a management rep the following year. So can we agree the way forward? Members happy with that? Thank you very much. Ronnie?
That's for members, but it's clearly the trade unions have to be involved, because if you read it, there has to be 4, and they have to rotate. So, I mean, Tom's always here, but the other people, for other reasons, can't make it all the time. And if training and having an expertise is crucial, we're going to have to identify trade unions that have got to be here for a wee while, or representatives. So there's a piece of work that has to be done with the staff.
Well, I think that would apply to the admitted bodies as well. So admitted bodies, trade unions, everyone's a member of the fund. Ian?
Just before we go on and take the resolution to exclude the public, in regards to item 6, which is our next real point of business, is that all we've got? We've got it on the front there. Is that all we've got in regard? I know we have the Hyman's report, but do we have a report to say this is what we're noting, or as far as when the minutes printed, so the decision we make is as per on the very first page you get to the pension subcommittee, it says that the front is really item 6. Is that as much as we've got, other than what maybe would be classed as appendice? The appendix. Because we've no further report in. Normally they have a report saying this is the generalities of this report, but there's nothing contained in here to say that. Or so I'm just thinking when the decision is recorded, is that it? Just on the front, that's as far as we see yet, because we didn't see the details.
I'm not sure if I'm picking you up right, Ian, but the papers are similar to what we usually have. We don't usually have a front introduction report to the item from Hyman's that's coming up now.
I mean, as long as that's okay with governance and such, like, it's just, I mean, the first time I've really picked up on that, then normally I've read this. Normally you thought you would have got an A4 side saying as per the appendix to the report, because there's nothing within here with them recommendations on it. So it was just that. So it doesn't actually. So all you've got is here an agenda item at the front, dating this is what's going to happen, but there's nothing further on it within the body of the report.
Can I just, when we do the covering report, it's when there's specific recommendations or decisions for members to take. There's no specific recommendations in relation to this paper today, but if there was any coming forward, we'd bring a covering report forward at that stage.
Okay, item 4, any other business? Don't have any intimated. And item 5, Local Government Scotland Act 1973, consider the adoption of the resolution to exclude the public. Agree to that? And move on to 6, review of investment manager performance, third quarter, report dated by Hyman's Robertson.